Hello, my dearest friends. Welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt, and welcome to a very brand new kind of a video that I've not yet done on my channel, something that I'm very excited about. Now, obviously, this is not an original idea. I've seen this video going around on many other booktube channels, but I just thought that it would be fun to do one of my own. I'm going to be doing my Bookish Awards of the year with 15 categories that I've come up with that are most suitable to my taste and what kind of books that I've picked up that I want to recommend to you. So really my winners of best kinds of books when it comes to different kinds of settings, tropes, covers, whatever you can come up with. So I have 15 categories that I've picked winners for. And here and there, I'm going to also mention some honorable seconds because it's very difficult for me to pick just one winner when I've read more than 200 books this year. That I've loved a lot of books, let me put it like that. I'm gushing about all kinds of books in my videos because I'm also not the harshest critic, if I have to be quite honest, but I did pick books that I really have as top reads of the year for my categories. And obviously, this is a very subjective kind of a video. These are the best kinds of books for me. And obviously, this is really, really subjective, right? So these are my awards for best books that I've picked up this year for me. You might love these books, you might hate these books, and that is absolutely valid. But let me just go ahead and dive into the books of all the categories that are very interesting for me to discuss right now. And I'm going to actually link those categories below in the description box if by any chance in the future you want to use them for your own video. And I'm just going to go ahead and dive in. Now, the first category is Prettiest Cover. I have to give this one to Victoria Wilder's Bourbon and Lies. I mean, I saw that cover and I didn't even want to know what the book is about. I immediately wanted to read it because it's just gorgeous. And I think the artist for this one has done a splendid job for the first and also the second book, which is Bourbon and Secrets. I love both of these covers. They're so beautiful, really gorgeous covers. And I also love that I really love the story. So it's not just a pretty cover, but really a good story behind it as well. And if I have to mention an honorable second, it's going to be Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. I know that not a lot of people love illustrated covers, but I love them when they're done well. And I think this one is just gorgeous. It depicts a very important scene within this book, and it's just beautiful. It's stunning to me. So yeah, I love this one as well. The second category is the category for Best Hero. Now, I've read a lot of Swoony heroes this year. I have to tell you, it was difficult for me to pick, but if I have to pick only one, I'm going to have to go with Isaiah from Play Along by Listum 40. Isaiah did his utter best to overcome all of the heroine's objections when it came to them being in a relationship. He was so head over heels in love with this heroine that he made the impossible possible when it comes to their relationship. He was so swoony and he was pining and there was longing, and he fell in love with her already from the first moment that he laid eyes on her. And this is the kind of hero that typically will leave me swooning the hardest. So yeah, I really fell in love with Isaiah in this book. Now that we've had Best Hero, we're also going to talk about Best Heroine. And for this one, I actually picked a heroine that is not a romance or romantasy heroine. I picked Shay from the Green Bones Saga by Fonda Lee. This heroine was so complex and so beautiful when it comes to how much layers there are to her character, because she has a very good backstory to her. She has a lot of different motivations when it comes to proving herself to her clan, but also wanting something for her own future that is not part of her family's legacy. And she has such an interesting way of communicating with both her family as well as the rival family. She's one of the few characters who actually has interactions with the enemy, essentially. And I just found her to be such a wonderful, complex character. I was in awe of her. She is the ultimate badass heroine for me. And yeah, I really fell in love with Shay in this story. The next category is Best Setting. I have to give this one to Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. This one is set in New Orleans. It has kind of spooky vibes to it because there are trials that are based in this kind of a haunted house in New Orleans. It just has the most wonderful kind of atmospheric setting to it. I was imagining a lot of the things that are described within the book. I really love the setting for this book, and the cover is gorgeous for this one as well. So yeah, it has to take the top for this category. Now, the next category is Best Writing. Now, I am not the most critical reader when it comes to writing. I have to say that for me, when a story flows well, has good pacing, the writing does not take me out of the story, then I'm quite content with it. And I have to say that obviously there are very many balances that an author needs to take a look into when creating a story, having a very good world building, very kind of consistent dialogue, and not having, again, many situations of taking the reader out of the story. And it's very difficult to do it when you're doing, for example, third-person narration. So I don't know, I'm not, again, the most critical reader, so maybe I'm not the best judge of character when it comes to writing, but I have to say that one book that really was intimidating to me, because I thought that the writing was going to be kind of difficult for me to follow, but I fell in love with the story simply because I was taken into the story, and basically the writing was so good that I flowed through that story, even though it's quite a chunky book. That book is The Will of the Many by James Islington. I have to say that, again, I was intimidated by this story because it's quite a chunky book. And it's just the kind of a story that you get roped into and you binge it because it's just so well written, even though there are a lot of world building moments, a lot of descriptions. It didn't bother me one single bit that there were a lot of world building moments. I just loved it. And I'm definitely going to be continuing on in this series because it was just so good. The next category is a fun one. It's a book that made me laugh, so a funny kind of a romance book. And that is going to be Love and Other Conspiracies for me. This one really made me laugh out loud. There is very good banter in it. There is some very good humor in it. The romance is really cute. The cover is gorgeous. It's a debut novel, which I love. That I picked up a debut novel that really was fun to me and was really something that I did not anticipate to love as much as I did. So this one is definitely a winner for me. Now you know what's coming, right? After a funny book, I have to go with a sad book. So we're going with a book that made me cry. And I've not made it really a secret on my channel that it's very easy for me to cry in books. I'm a very big cry baby, so it's not difficult to get me to cry within books. But this year, I didn't really have a lot of books that really made me sob. One book that I can definitely think of that left an impression on me is The Idea of You by Robin Lee. This one I picked up because of the adaptation that came out this year. I wanted to pick up the book before the movie came out, and I did not really know that the ending was going to have this much of an impact on me. If you've read this book, you know why. And yeah, I cried. I cried a lot, and I really loved the story as well. I gave it 5 stars, so yeah, it's a definite winner for me. The next category is the Best Contemporary New Release of the Year, and the winner for this one for me is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This book is the complete package to me. It has a swoony romance, it has a great original kind of a plot, it has real life kinds of conflicts that the characters need to overcome. It has great character development for the hero as well as the heroine. And I was left kind of not needing a single thing more when I was reading this book. I fell in love with it, and if I could reread it right now, I would jump into it right now. And then the next one is the Best New Release in the Romantasy category. For this one, I have to give it to Quicksilver by Callie Hart. I really fell in love with this story because I saw it going around everywhere, but I really didn't want to know anything about the plot so I could be surprised. And it really took me by surprise. I loved it. I loved the romance within it. I loved the world building. I loved kind of the conflicts that come through. I love the found family in it, and I was so immersed into the story. I definitely want the second book to be out already because I want to know what happened in the end, and it's a definite winner for me. Now, the next category is very near and dear to my heart because I love discovering new authors that are debut authors. And the next category is Best Debut Novel of this year for me, and that has to go to When I Think of You by Maya Ariel. I fell in love with this story because it very much reminded me of Real by Kennedy Ryan, which is an all-time favorite book of mine. When I think of You as a second chance romance, a trope that I love very dearly, and I found that it was well written. I found that it had very good character development for the heroine. It had a hero who needed to redeem himself, something that I love when there is kind of a grovel within the book. And I just love the setting for it as well. And I'm definitely going to be on the lookout for more by this author in the future. Now, you all know that I'm a romance-loving girly at heart, so I had to include a category with the swooniest romance of the year for me. And I'm sorry, but not sorry as well, that I'm going to be repeating myself, but I have to give it to Abby Jimenez's Just for the Summer. This is because I felt the realest, truest connection between the two characters, and the hero was the best kind of hero within this book as well. He had so much adversity that he had to overcome of his own, but at the same time, really having to put in the effort to convince the heroine that they should be together, and really making these gestures that leave you swooning in the end. And I just love this story so much. It's swoony, it has longing in it, it has angst in it, it has the beautiful kind of gestures that you want to see the hero make for his heroine, and yeah, I loved it. The next category is the best non-romance or non-romantasy book that I read this year, and this one has to go to Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I have to say that I don't typically pick up a lot of sci-fi books in general, and I was really taken by surprise by this book because I thought that I was going to get lost in the science behind the plot and really the engineering behind the plot, but I did not get lost at all. I was really engaged. I found it funny and endearing and sad, and I just had all these emotions when I was reading it, and I loved it in the end. The ending was great as well, so I had to give it to this one. The next category is Best Series, and I have to repeat myself, but I really have to give it to Fonda Lee and the Greenbone Saga. I mean, this series is going to remain with me for very many years ahead, and I have to say that if I were to forget at some point anything about this plot, I'm going to pick up and reread these books, something that I don't typically do, but I just love them so much. There are so many political aspects that I loved about this book. The setting, the family dynamics, the enemies, kind of conflicts between the rival clans. I loved everything about it. And just the conclusion of it left me feeling complete in some way. So I was grieving and loving and finding sadness and anger and all these emotions within this series. And I just loved every single bit of it. Don't worry, we're almost done. The next category is the best book that really lives up to the hype. So hyped books that really live up to the hype. I'm going to do a contemporary and a romantasy for this one. For the contemporary, I have to give it to Emily Henry's Funny Story. I mean, I know that everyone is talking about this book, and with good reason. It's an amazing kind of a story that has a good romance to it, good character building, and just an overall great idea behind it. I think that Emily Henry has found a way of coming up with really great ideas to execute in the best possible way that she can, and it really works. I mean, everyone is loving her stories for a very good reason, so I have to give it to Funny Story. And then when it comes to the romantasy book, I have to give it to Phantasma, and that is because when I saw it going around for the first time and everyone was talking about it, I was like, I think this sounds to me like the case of Lauren Roberts' Powerless, where everyone is hyping up this book and it's going to be just an okay read. But when I picked it up, I was really surprised by how well executed it was when it comes to, again, the setting, the romance, the trials. I had a lot of fun with it. I was engaged with it. And I love that it has a happily ever after for the couple, which means that the second book is going to be a companion novel to this one. So you don't really need to go into the second book if you don't want to. It's really a good standalone romance fantasy, romantasy, whatever you want to call it. I really loved it. Now, the last category is the most underrated book that I read this year, a book that really deserves more hype. So the underdog of all these books, if you will, and that has to go to Role Playing by Kathy Yardley. I mean, I've talked about this book a lot on my channel, and for very good reason, because I just want more people to discover it, because we definitely deserve more of these kinds of characters in romance books in the future. We have a very underrepresented kind of a group of people within romance, and those are these kinds of people who are in their late 40s to 50s, have already had very serious relationships behind them, have been burned and jaded, and perhaps don't even believe in love anymore for themselves, but then they encounter someone and they start to believe in love again, and that is just so wonderful to read about and to see and to hope for in real life as well. So I definitely have to give it to Role Playing. Now, my friends, these were my Bookish Awards of 2024, all my picks for winners for all these wonderful categories. Like I mentioned before, I'm going to leave them down below if you want to use these prompts for a video of your own. And also, please let me know if you've read any of these books, if they were winners for you as well. And let me know who your winners would have been if you wouldn't have picked the books that I picked. And I hope you love this idea. Please let me know if you did. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I hope to see you in the next one. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care and bye-bye.